much for meeting with me today, and congratulations on your new album, Dirt FEMME. I would love to know, what is the story behind the title? Like, why did you decide to call it Dirt FEMME?
In general, it's just kind of like how I identify in a way, and the album kind of has this overlaying theme of my relationship with my femininity, and I think that's kind of how I ended up there with that title, because I feel a lot more in touch with that side of me now, but there's still some dirt to it, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember you had recently like a big interview with the Rolling Stone, and in this interview you said, you talked about the beginning of your music career, and then you said, I started to view my feminine traits as weaknesses instead of strengths. So how did you manage to embrace your femininity more and more over the years?
Well, I think it's, to be honest, a lot of that sort of like soul searching and kind of like what has my journey been in this was during the Me Too movement as well, when I was just looking at like my career and my life and the choices that I've made, and how I felt very lucky to also have had a lot of great men around me, but then also obviously run into all these situations where I've had to just get myself out of them without having to do something I don't want to do, and also not lose my chances, you know, because you think that, I don't know, like all that kind of stuff where I felt like if I was so used to being the only girl in the room, right? So I think if I was in that space and I played up my masculine traits, then they would respect me, they would kind of listen to me more, yeah. And I think, and I'm not saying like I definitely have a lot of masculine traits that, so it's a part of me, but I think I started to view the other sides of me, the only place that they would come out would be in my music, and I feel like I wouldn't really, and I would view those sides of me more as weaknesses instead of strengths, but I think that's just changed over the years because I started to look at myself, and also I think just the conversation in general with the people that I'm around, and like we just started to sort of talk more about toxic masculinity and celebrate more feminine traits in all humans, not just like man, woman, you know. And I think, that kind of set me on that sort of journey in my mind as well. Yeah. Like unconsciously, but yeah,
but still.
Yeah.
And what I find really interesting is that when I read like old interviews with you, like from 2014, 15.
Oh God.
Yeah. Well, I had to prepare myself.
No, of course.
You were often called the saddest girl in
yeah.
Sweden. And I thought, like, why is that? Like, what kind of description is that? And do you maybe think that sadness is like a distinctive subject in pop music? I don't know.
Well,
because
so
when
funny
you think about Billie Eilish, you know, and the trend of being sad in music.
Well, I also think like that was sort of, you know, that's almost 10 or 8 years ago now. So I feel like at the time, I mean, it was only one article, but I think people ask me a lot about that over the years. Like, how do you feel about being called that? And to me, I took it like kind of as a compliment because to me it was like at the time being sad in pop music, not that didn't happen, but there was like another level of sort of maybe another level to my sort of honesty in the lyrics. That's, I mean, what people would tell me. It's like, why do you have to say all that? Like, why do you have to share so much of yourself? Like, it's embarrassing kind of thing. Yeah. And like, because there was maybe, like in Habits, for example, I'm singing about very, you know, in the end, like, I mean, a lot of people treat it like a party song, but it isn't a heartbreak song. And there's like,
it's not at all a party song.
and it has like, you know, a lot of, and quite destructive, you know, a sentiment to it. And I think that maybe at the time wasn't as common when, like, for a song that became as big as it became. I don't know. I think also I was just honest. I was like, I've been depressed and I've struggled with this, and when I'm like crying in the video, you know, I kind of, and I think maybe there was just like there's this thing maybe in pop or like in commercial music in general, like if you have one message, it's easier because you kind of have like, okay, you want to put people into boxes, you know, like this artist is this way, that's what they stand for. This artist is this way, that's what they stand for. And I think when you show all sides of yourself as like a full human, people get a bit confused. You know, it's like
it's too complex for them.
In one song you said this, but then you also said this. I'm like,
well,
have you not have both feelings? Kind of like that. Yeah, and I think that maybe that's why that stuck around with me. Maybe still, you know, people are like, you know, you seem really happy, but you've been called this, and I'm like, but I can be sad and I can be happy.
Yeah, sure, of course.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you started talking about habits because before the interview I watched the music video again for the song, and I remember when it came out I loved the song and I haven't seen the video in like, for like 8 years, and I watched it and then I read the comments underneath it, and I thought it was really amazing because all of the comments were like, I'm so grateful for this song because she's so honest, and I can relate to this feeling of numbing myself with alcohol or drugs, just not feel anything. So I was wondering, how was it for you to become so successful with such a vulnerable song? Because, like, as you said, you shared so much with that song.
And I think with the video too, like it's such an intense video, right? I feel like to me it's been like a blessing to be able to, like that was the song that like, you know, made this whole life possible for me in a way. Because I think that has made, there's at least, you know, it's such a weird world to navigate, like doing this job and like being an artist and being a person talking about yourself all day and then singing songs that are about you, and then like, you know, it's like all that. But and the kind of navigating the industry is so strange, like it's just but I think then there's one thing I know, that if I stay honest in my songs, my fans will feel that and they'll stay connected with me. And I think that's like, because it's all about like, if they didn't like the music, if they didn't want to come to the shows, none of this would happen for me. And so I always try to remember that, like, that's the whole reason it's possible. It's because they're like connecting with your songs. Like I could always write songs in it, but you know, it's the connection with them that makes it possible, you know?
Yeah, I think honesty is a very good keyword here because you also have a lot of songs on your new album which are very honest. Yeah. Wow. For example, Grapefruit, which I liked a lot because you just recently came public with your bulimia as a teenager. So how was it for you to share this experience in a song now, like so many years later?
Yeah. I feel like it was the last thing that I'm like, okay, here's the last thing about me you didn't know. No, it's weird because I feel like I've never really like consciously not shared it. I think I've like mentioned in passing, like, oh, I used to struggle a lot with body image as growing up. I just never really wanted to get into it because then that becomes everything about you, you know? But I think at this point, it's been so long since I struggled with it that maybe I felt ready to talk about it without getting like triggered every time, you know? But I also think it was like a combination of things. Again, like writing this record, I had a lot more time than I've had in the past. I was also kind of like stripped of my artistry in terms of like, you know, I wasn't touring because of COVID. I wasn't putting out music. My record deal was out. I didn't feel like writing for the first, like almost the first whole year, like of 2020. And I think maybe I had more time to just like reflect and look back at my life and just like kind of, you know, as you do when you're
COVID
stuck
times,
at home. And then I also think another reason why kind of just like all the sort of memories started kind of like washing over me was I ended up shooting this movie in Sweden in end of 2020.
Yeah, I read about that.
Yeah. And they asked me to lose some weight for the role. Nothing crazy, and it wasn't like, I mean, no like anger at them. It was like I'm playing like a starving sex worker from the 1850s. Like they were like, we needed to get rid of the tan. We needed to kind of look a little bit more unhealthy, you know. And it wasn't and I know that if I would have said, hey, no, I can't do that because of my past, they would have been like, okay, cool, let's not. We'll figure it out, you know.
Yeah.
But I
felt ready.
I felt ready to try it, you know. But I wasn't expecting. It was the first time I went on a diet then in like 10 years, and I wasn't expecting. All the memories just kind of like started coming back, and I was like, oh my god, I haven't thought about this behavior that I used to be so obsessed with for so long, and it kind of just like
counting calories and everything.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff, and like just the anxiety around food and the anxiety around the exhaustion of like, first of all, being exhausted because you're not eating enough, and then the exhausting of counting and keeping track of what you ate and what you didn't eat and how much you've exercised and all that kind of stuff. And I just like, I wish I never put myself through that. But then also, I'm so proud of myself for being able to like do this, shoot the film and then just like go back to my normal habits and be fine.
Yeah,
like
that's amazing.
That was a big, you know, that was like a big success in my in myself.
That's really cool.
But so yeah, but then I wrote the song during that time because I was just like, I have to kind of get this out of me. Yeah.
Generally speaking, I feel like we're in a very ambivalent time right now regarding body images, because on the one hand we have like this trend of body positivity online, and on the other side social media is really like distorting body images.
Yeah.
What do you think? Like, are we living in a healthy environment regarding body images right now, or is it rather destructive?
What I grew up with was so warped, you know. I think now there's an acceptance, and also like I think culturally people are getting called out more if they don't try to like contribute to a more positive, a more diverse body image, you know. Because I think that's the problem when it becomes like only one thing is beautiful. If that's what we get fed with in the media all the time, it's just like social media and movies and music videos, everything. Like if that's the tone and the agenda, then that's what like when you grow up, that's what you get fed, that's the only thing that's beautiful. And I think that's the bigger issue. It's not about like getting rid of skinny as something, saying skinny is something bad. It's more like there's so many other bodies that are beautiful, and like there's just so many more ways to look than just this one way, you know. And I think that's like I don't know, but to me, I make kind of a big deal of like, you know, don't retouch my body, like I want to look, you know. And it's not like, I mean, I'm not saying you always have to be your full natural self. I'm like, play around, you know, makeup, clothes, it's all, it's a way of expression. But I think for me, I mean, it doesn't really happen anymore, but I remember in the start, like I would get, you know, photos back from articles, and I would see, I'm like, you clearly have made my arm like a lot skinnier here. And they're like, no. And I'm like, yes,
you did.
I know what my arm looks like.
It's so toxic.
Yeah, it is. And I think there's no reason.
No.
Like, doesn't matter. Like, it just, I don't know. I don't know if it's better or worse now, but I do feel like there's maybe a little bit more of accountability than it used to be. Yeah. At least I hope so.
Yeah. I get
and then I see these like, the Y2K body is back. I'm like, no,
please don't. Please don't bring it back. Okay, speaking about another song of yours from the new album, Suburbia, because you got married 2 years ago, is that right?
Yes,
2020?
yeah. 2020.
Congratulations.
In the middle of all of it, yeah.
And in the song, Suburbia, you sing about like being scared of becoming stuffy or bourgeois and like what do you call it, Stepford wife?
Yeah.
Like, were you really afraid of like losing your old life or becoming codependent, or what was your fear?
I think it's more about, I think also when I wrote it, it was like, you know, again, when I just started writing again for the album, but I like, again, was kind of like, I didn't have a label, I didn't have, I wasn't touring, I wasn't putting out music. So I kind of just felt like I was in this place of like not being an artist. And then we got married, which I'm so happy about. Like I love him, he's perfect. But I think both me and him grew up quite traditionally. And I'm not saying, that's kind of, this is my, so the song is like, you know, I have a dilemma with it, right? Because I think there's nothing wrong with wanting a family and wanting like a safe life and have a house and backyard and have your kids grow up riding their bikes. I don't know, that's like a normal dream that so many people have and deserve. But I never felt like I could be myself in the kind of sort of generic, typically straight, like suburb life. You know? And I guess me and my husband grew up quite traditionally, and I think anytime we do anything traditional or like, you know, common, like both sides of the people we grew up with and our families are like, oh, you're normal, you did something normal, you know, they're just like relax in that feeling. And I think that makes me like, no, that's not what I want to be.
Stop that.
And I guess I just got like worried, like, okay, so now if we have kids, are we just gonna have to like do this life now because that's the only way to live if you have children? And then I'm like, I want to keep living in this collective with my friends. Like I don't want to have to stop that. I need to be part. I want to I want to be part of this the queer community that I'm a part of, like if we move away to some like typical suburb place, it's just going to be, you know, like, that's not where I want to be. And I think that's kind of that. But then I'm also like, but what's wrong with that? So the song is just about those kind of
also
thoughts back and
feelings.
forth. Yeah. And like not really knowing. And also we talk about all the time that we have no idea what our life is going to look like in 10 years. And I know a lot of people don't, but I think the fact that we can't even picture where we're going to live, it's like kind of an interesting situation, but I like that.
Yeah, like getting right into the unknown, right?
Yeah.
I would say that you and like the new album is like very pop music in the pop music genre, but I read that you started out doing rock music, like with your first band, like back then. So I would like to know, why did you decide to go into pop music, and like what does the genre that other genres maybe can't for you?
I honestly don't know. I think it was a natural progression of like when I wasn't in that band anymore. It was quite complicated music. It was like, which it changed, you know, key and tempo 3 times throughout the song. It was like pretty heavy, hard to sing, hard to play, very much like music for musicians, I feel like. And when I started writing by myself, when that band split up, musically, it had to be simpler. And I think I'd always liked pop music. I've always been like a huge Robin fan and like, you know, but I've also, I think I was a little bit judgmental about it when I was growing up, because I was, you know, going to a music school and it was like, it's so easy, you know. But then I've learned over the years, like, keeping it simple is the hardest thing to do. Like, you can always throw more stuff on it, but like writing one sentence that so many people can relate to and that can mean different things to different people, but they all feel something when they hear it, and communicating that feeling in one sentence for 3 minutes, it's just, it's hard, and it's fun, and it's cool to be able to put a song together. But I think, I don't know, I just love the playfulness that is pop now, you know. I think it's a very broad genre. There's no like real rules in it anymore. So I don't really know,
But I think it's funny that you said that, because when I grew up and I studied like pop music, like not in a musical sense, but in a theoretical sense. And there was always the stigma about pop. Like you said, like it's easy or it's superficial. And I don't get it, because I feel like you said, pop is so broad now and can be anything it wants to be.
But isn't it, there's always that feeling like when something becomes too popular so that people who don't have a lot of knowledge about it like it, then all of a sudden it stops being cool in some people's eyes. And certain songs, I'm like, I understand why this is big, but I don't like this song, you know. But I feel like it's too subjective for anyone to say. It shouldn't have that stigma just because it's popular. I don't know. Everyone has a taste about music, like whether you like it or you don't, or like what song you listen to, or whatever. But and it's something that is everyone should have their own opinion about, you know. No one's really right or wrong.
No, I mean, music is subjective. I mean, that's what it. Since the rise of like TikTok and Instagram, there's been a lot of artists that spoke out about having this pressure of having to release music like more regularly, and being more active on social media. Do you also have that kind of pressure?
I mean, but I feel like it's just part of. It's kind of like this. You can choose not to do it. When I hear about like, you know, big artists getting told by their label, like, if you don't do this, we're not going to put out your song. And to me, that's a bit lazy. Like, there are more ways, you know. True. But I also think if you can find your tone on there, it's such a huge, fun platform. So I really enjoyed it. I've just like found my way of just like, it's another way for me to communicate with the fans, you know. And I think I always am curious about where things are moving, and I want to be part of where the world is moving. I'm not trying to go against it, you know. The only thing that makes me a little bit like, is, you know, the fact that like I put an album a month ago. Like that's not a long time ago. And I worked on it for 2 years. And then, you know, now already it's like, what's next?
Like 4 weeks later.
Keep listening to the album, please. But and I think that it's just how it is now. But sometimes it makes me a little bit sad how disposable music can feel sometimes. It's like, just do another song. Like it's like, this stuff is like it's hard work and emotional and so much time and effort put into this.
I mean, it's a form of art, actually.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's like manufactured.
But I think you can do both, and I think you just have to make sure that you get both.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you can be playful and instant and close, like, you know, be active on those platforms and still be very in touch with and in charge of your art. And like, you can definitely have both. But it's another full-time job, honestly.
Yeah. True. Okay, I've got one last question. You collaborated with a lot of amazing people over the years, like Kylie Minogue and Duran Duran and Martin Garrix and whoever. So what is your dream feature? Like, who would you love to work with someday? Or did you work with them all?
There's so many. No. There's so many more. I still have this dream to write a song like with/for Rihanna, like for her, just like to make a song with her would be incredible. Yeah.
Thank you so much for talking with me today.
Of course, thank you.
And have fun tonight.
I will.
Yay.